So far, we've understood the issue of empowerment to require an incremental suspension of control, and the issue of empowerment to be concerned with giving people the means, the ability, and the accountability to do what's required of them. If we integrate those two insights into a process, we now have what we refer to as the 5 steps to empowerment. The first step is to identify the next step. The second step is to train people to take that step, both why and how. The third step is to attest their ability, both why and how. The fourth step is to hand over the means, and then finally you should hold the person accountable. And of all these 5 steps, the fifth is the most important. In a sense, one shouldn't even start with 1 if you aren't prepared to do number 5. Steps 1 to 4 are a precondition for 5. The reason why this is so important becomes apparent when you consider the following example. Let's say we work for a manufacturing organization called Widgets that belongs to a major corporate organization. We've been tasked to build a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Malawi. And let's assume I'm the project director and there's a project team of about 15 top project managers that are all concerned with building the state-of-the-art facility. Let's also assume that this corporate have incredibly difficult and onerous purchasing processes. So it takes forever to get anything done. So we arrive in country, and what becomes apparent to me within a couple of weeks is that we will never get this project done on time given the purchasing processes of this business. For the civils guy, Fred, to get a sack of cement on site, he needs 5 signatures, half of which are in Europe. So I take a decision as the project director that I'm going to circumvent the purchasing processes by giving each member of my team a credit card to spend on project business. However, I'm not going to be irresponsible about it. I take my advice from the 5 steps. The first step basically means that my intention is to give each person on my team a credit card to spend on project business. Step number 2 says that I train them to manage their credit card by first of all indicating why it is that I'm entrusting them with a credit card. So I have to explain to them that we will never get this project done on time, and I also have to explain to them how significant the authority is that I'm entrusting to them. Secondly, I have to indicate to them how to use this credit card. In a sense, I need to show them how to integrate the credit card statement with the company accounts. Once I've done those 2 things, I now test their ability. The how is easy to test. I give them a set of dummy accounts for them to reconcile. The why is a little bit more challenging because I've got to have a conversation with each one of my team members that will convince me that the person really understands the significance of what they're being entrusted with and why it is that they have to act responsibly with regard to their new authority. Having done that with my entire team, and let's assume that my entire team has passed the test with flying colors, I now hand each person a credit card. And Sally, the HR woman, uses her credit card to buy a holiday for herself and her entire extended family to the Maldives. Now the question is, what should I do with Sally? And clearly I should hold Sally accountable. Distressingly, what I find happens in organizations these days is that there's a reaction in horror and quite possibly Sally's left alone, but the credit cards are quickly taken away from everybody else. This phenomenon we like to call the let's not witch hunt syndrome. The let's not witch hunt syndrome basically says when something goes wrong, don't have a witch hunt, just make sure it never happens again. Unfortunately, if you translate this into English, it means that when something goes wrong, don't find out who's accountable, just impose another control. Because our habit in organizations is not to look first at accountability issues, but to how we can regain control. We have to understand that accountability and control are mutually exclusive things. You either have the one or you have the other. You cannot have them simultaneously. If we have a look at these 2 interactions, Tony, in 1980 I did what you have to do now and what I did work. Don't argue with me, do what I did. Clearly I'm accountable for the outcome and I'm controlling Tony. In the Fred interaction, in 1980 I did what you have to do now and what I did work that might be helpful to take a look at it. Although I don't have control, because Fred has control, it also means that Fred is accountable. It suggests that control and accountability are opposites. I either have control or I enable accountability in the person who's doing the job. I can't have them simultaneously. It suggests that if I don't hold people accountable, I'll be forced to take control.